Hi, I'm Rich Harwood. Thanks for joining us today. Growing up, I knew I wanted to make a difference and find a way to create a more hopeful society and hopefully to leave it profoundly better than how I found it. And I would need to step forward to do this, and I would need other people to make that happen. Again, my name is Rich Harwood. Our work began some years ago in a one-bedroom apartment in Washington, D.C. Now our work has spread to all 50 states across the U.S. and has been brought into 40 countries around the world. And over these 30 years, we've learned about what it takes to create a more hopeful society. Our work, as some of you know, is rooted in a philosophy called Civic faith and is driven by a practice of being turned outward. And our goal is to equip people and organizations and communities and networks around the world with the tools to bridge divides, with the ability to build capacity, and the capabilities to tackle shared challenges together. And this is our first inaugural Harwood Half Hour. Welcome. Over the past 30 years, we're now at our 30th anniversary, which is what I want to talk about today. And we've been working hard to learn what it takes to really create change, change that lasts, change that's positive, change that's meaningful to people in communities. And we wanted to create change that produces a more hopeful society, as I said before. And I wanted to share three things as I thought about our 30th anniversary today. I wanted to share three things with you that are important to me about what it means for us here at our 30th anniversary, and hopefully three things that are important for you in terms of us moving forward together. And as we get started, let me just say, let us know where you're tuning in from. And also, we've got this name, Harwood Half Hour. We're working on it. It's our first stab, and let me know if it works for you, and let me know if you've got better ideas. We'd love to hear them. It's just another way for us to innovate together and see where we go. But look, let me tell you about these three things I wanted to talk about in terms of our 30th. And the first one is this. I feel a deep responsibility. I feel compelled, actually, to share what we've learned over these last 30 years. As some of you know, I'm not real big on celebrations. I tend to keep my head down. I tend to keep plowing ahead and trying to figure out what the next challenge is that we want to take on. But as our 30th approached this year, we undertook a project here within the Institute where we excavated our 30-year history, where we figured out where our ideas came from, how they formed, what form they took, how and why they spread, which ones seemed to be working the best. And I have to tell you, as we undertook this 30-year excavation of our history, I came to really appreciate what it is that we've created. And I've come to really understand that actually it's a gift. And I think of it as a gift that I'm a steward of. It's not mine. It's not owned by anyone in particular. It's something that we're kind of guiding forward as we move ahead. But it really is, I really do think of it as a real gift. And here's the thing, because it's a gift, I don't want to, I want to spread it and give it to other people. So that together we actually can create a more hopeful society for every individual in America and for people around the world. And so as we move forward, what you can expect from us are more stories of impact about how they came about and what the implications might be for you and what some lessons are that we take away that maybe will be helpful for you in your own work as you move forward. We'll be reintroducing some key frameworks. Some of my favorites like community rhythms and public capital and meaningful chaos and planned serendipity. Those are all framework names that we know have been popular over the years and have provided some key insights for people as they do their work. And so we want to reintroduce them and make them more available and more accessible to everyone. And we want to talk about what it really takes to spread change. And what are some of the conditions we need to create, and what are some of the conditions that we've learned that are really important if we're going to spread change. And so you can expect more from us so that we can share more with you what we've learned over these last 30 years. And so I just want to know, as I'm going through this, my first time doing it, whether or not you guys are with me. Let me know below if you can hear me or if you can't, and or if, as we go along, if there are any questions you want to make sure I address as I get to the end of this. The second point that I want to mention is this. I want to find ways to leverage what we've learned to address the challenges that we face as a country moving forward. I think this is really important. So as we celebrate our 30th, really for me, it's not about looking back and all the great things that we achieved. It's about leveraging what we've learned so that we can address the challenges as we move forward. And, you know, as we all know, and I'm sure you've experienced it, it feels like every group, every individual in our society today from different walks of life have grievances. They're grieved about something. And as these grievances have taken hold and we talk to one another, we're simply raising the volume, but we can't hear each other any better. In fact, many cases we're past one another. Our public discourse has become overly toxic. It seems to me that we spend more time talking about what we're against than what we're for. We have more public leaders who are more concerned about their own personal agendas than our common agenda. We have more organizations, not just in Washington, D.C., but in our local communities that are more concerned about their own survival than the civic health of our local communities. And it seems to me we just can't move forward under these conditions. And the challenge, I think, increasingly for us in America is how do we find dignity, hope, and community again? And when I say dignity, I mean that dignity is a birthright. It's not something you earn like trust. It's a birthright. But so many of us in our society today feel as though we aren't really afforded dignity. When I talk about hope, I'm not talking about a bumper sticker slogan or some campaign promise. Really, for me, hope means something as basic as, you know, when a kid is going to bed at night and they're putting their head on their pillow in Youngstown, Ohio, or Flint, Michigan, or down in Sarasota, Florida, or in Austin, Texas, or rural California, wherever it may be, when that kid's going to bed, do they actually believe in their gut, that in their heart, that tomorrow can be better than today? To me, that's a test of hope. And when we talk about finding community in America, what I'm concerned about is, can we make community a common enterprise again? It seems to me so many of us feel like we're going it alone on our own. And, you know, I can't think of a damn thing that's been built, that's been worth anything, that we built it on our own. It seems to me that anything worth its salt, anything worth its weight, anything worth of value to us, somehow or another, we did it with other people. And it seems to me when it comes to community and building a more hopeful society, we've got to figure out how to make community a common enterprise again. And so as we move forward on our 30th anniversary and we recommit ourselves to leveraging what we've learned for addressing the challenges ahead of us, I want to figure out how can we apply what we've learned so that we can bridge the divides in our country that are really keeping us apart from one another. How can we create a culture of shared responsibility when so many of us feel like we're going it alone and that we're on our own? How do we productively deal with the stains on our civic fabric? I mean, a lot of the grievances that people have are about the fact that we haven't really addressed some of the stains that have come about through our history in our country. And it seems to me that if we're going to move forward as a unified, united country, if we're going to create a more perfect union, then we're going to have to find ways to address these stains and hopefully erase them, but never forget them. And how do we restore our sense of civic faith in these divisive times? How do we do that? And so as we think about how to leverage what we've learned over the last 30 years for the next 10 years, my question to you is, what challenges would you like to see us tackle? And how can we help you address the challenges that you're facing in your own work, in your own communities, and in your own lives? And then lastly, the third point I just wanted to raise today is we want to rededicate ourselves to you. You know, I do this work for some really basic reasons. As corny as it may sound, I believe that everyone should be able to reach and fulfill their God-given potential. I think every individual, every child, every person in America should have a fair shot at the American dream. It's not okay that some of us have that and others don't. I really believe that. And I believe that we should be working to bring out the best in each of us and in ourselves. Not, so often we're bringing out the worst in ourselves and in each other. It doesn't have to be that way. We can do better. We can be better. I really do believe that. And it's not just a theory, I believe. I've seen it happen in communities just like you have. And I think we need to get back to that and focus on it. And so when I say we're going to rededicate ourselves to you, it's to these notions of work that I know that you share with me and that you believe in as deeply or more deeply than I believe in it. And so every morning when I wake up and every day when I look in the mirror and I shave, I think about how do we fulfill these promises to people, and how do we make a hopeful society real in people's lives and meaningful and purposeful, and how do we do it so that it happens in time, so that people believe they actually can get up and create a better life for themselves, their families, their neighbors, their communities. And so here at the Institute, as we launch our 30th anniversary this year, we launch it in this Facebook Live, we're dedicated to making sure that we're committed to you, because in reality, I know this work, this gift that I talked about early on a few minutes ago, it's not about us, it's about forming a more perfect union and creating more hopeful societies, and that all of you, each of you, are the folks on the ground making this work happen. And really, we're just here in support of what you're doing, in service of what you're doing. So as we move forward, I hope you'll tell us what support you need from us, how we can be helpful to you. We really want to know. We really do care. I think you know that. And we want to be as helpful and supportive as we possibly can. And we've got a team of folks that are always monitoring our website, our social media, and are looking to know what you're thinking and how we can be supportive of what you're doing. And so those are the three things I just wanted to mention today about our 30th anniversary that I'm thinking about as we go into this 30th, as we definitely celebrate it, but really how we make sure that we share what we're learning, that we leverage what we've learned for the next years ahead, and that we rededicate ourselves to the work that you're doing and how we can be helpful and supportive to what you're doing. So with that, I'd love to take any questions and see what you're thinking and go from there. So Brad wants to know, how can we help spread the word of the Harwood Institute? I promise I did not pay him to ask that. So look, I think the best way to spread the word of the Harwood Institute is to talk about how this work has enabled you, Brad, has enabled anyone else here today or listening in the future, how this work has been meaningful to you, how this work has helped you achieve your aspirations and the aspirations of those in your community, how it's helped you bring yourself into the world in a more authentic way, and how it's helped produce more impact in people's lives. I think if you can essentially be the witness for how this work is useful and helpful, I think the work will speak for itself, and people will take you as the person who's supporting it and who's speaking on behalf of it. And I think that's better than probably anything I can ever say. So if you'll do that for us, actually, I think it'll help many more people. And look, I'll say one last thing. I think we need to build an ever-expanding number of people who believe we can build a hopeful society. And I don't think our approach that people can use to do that, but the more people using our approach, the better, and the more likely we'll get on a better trajectory moving towards that hopeful society we all want to create. So the question, Brad.
Can you say more about Civic?
So there's another question about civic faith. You know, we've spent a lot of time talking about our practice of turning outward and how change happens, and a lot of people have asked me, so what's the underpinning of that? And for me, it's really a philosophy or a way of thinking about things that I think of as civic faith. It's kind of rooted in a notion of pragmatic idealism. And for me, civic faith has 5 components. Let me see if I can remember these and reel them off real quickly. One is that I think our work always has to be focused on people. This work is about people and their lives, their lived experiences, what matters to them. And if we're not focused on people, then it seems to me that it's very difficult to create the kind of society that we're looking for. So number 1, we've got to be focused on people. Number 2, I think we have to recognize and believe, truly believe, that people have innate capabilities to come together and solve problems. You know, in our society, we spend so much time serving other people, seeing them as broken, seeing them as clients or customers, and we don't see ourselves as having innate capability. We're using technology, and we hit a bit of a technology snag. So, but we're back. So number 1 is people, about civic faith. Number 2 is believing in our innate capabilities and that people actually have agency to make good things happen, and we need to tap that. A third thing is that we need to make community a common enterprise. We're all pulling together in a sense of shared responsibility. Fourth is that, you know, I think we need to recommit ourselves that we need to strike a covenant, a civic covenant, to make society work. You know, we think about covenants as a religious term, but it was used as a civic term long before religion started to use it. And I think programs and strategies and initiatives are really important, but at the heart of society, at the heart of a strong community, are our relationships to one another. And I think we need to strike a covenant about how we will be in relationship to one another and our commitments to one another. And then lastly, just to end this quickly, I think we need to think about hope, but not whether or not we simply feel hope. I think we need to make a commitment to engendering hope. For me, hope is an action, not simply a feeling. And I think we have a choice. Each of us faces a choice. Will we be proponents of false choice, where we raise unrealistic expectations and talk tough and go on witch hunts and do all sorts of things that you know, sound good and make people feel good sometimes, but actually we can't deliver on? Or will we be real proponents of authentic hope, where we set realistic expectations, we take small steps forward as demonstrations that we can actually create change together, where we put tough issues on the table to demonstrate that we're capable of recognizing the issues that confront us, where we actually have real conversations that demonstrate we're willing to transcend our differences when possible. So I actually think hope is a choice. We may not feel it right now. Some of us may not feel it. You may not feel it. But it doesn't mean that we can't make the choice to engender hope and help create a sense of hope. And so for me, all these things make up civic faith. And I think at the heart of the Institute's work is this commitment to civic faith. And everything we do is pointed toward it and seeks to create it and seeks to enable others to create it in their own lives and in their own communities. So we're going to actually do one of these Facebook Lives on civic faith, spend a little more time on it, but that's a quick explanation. Thanks for the question. So we've got one other question. One person wants to know, where are we going to go on this tour? As many of you know, we've announced a speaking tour, Finding Dignity, Hope, and Community in America today. And someone wants to know, where are we going on tour? And so, you know, it's unbelievable. You know, we just announced this tour. It's been in a couple of emails and e-letters. And believe it or not, in just a few short weeks, we've got over 40 communities that have called us and asked me to come speak in their communities. I don't know if we'll go to all 40 of those, but I know we're already going to Winchester, Kentucky, and Jackson, Mississippi, and Billings, Montana, and Oak Park, Illinois, and I hope Iowa, and New Hampshire, and Maine, and in California. Sounds like we're running in the primaries, but we're not. We're going to go to as many communities as we can. If you want us to come, if you want me to come to your community to talk about finding dignity, hope, and community in America, I'd love to come. We're not going to limit ourselves. We're going to run it as long as we possibly can, long beyond next year. And the other thing is, I just finished a book, which subtitled "Finding Dignity, Hope, and Community in America," and hopefully that will be published in time for this tour. So we're really excited about it, and I hope I'll see you in your community. So we're about up for time. This is our first Facebook Live. Remember, for the rest of the year, every Thursday at 4 o'clock Eastern Time, we'll be here for discussions about how you can create real change and how you can bring change into your life, into your organization, into your community, and into our country. Next week, I'll be discussing the practice of turning outward. What is it? What does it mean? How can you make it your own, which to me is really important, and how can it help you accelerate and deepen the change that you're trying to create in your communities? Look for reminders on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can visit our website to sign up for our updates and e-letters. Moving forward, I just want you to know that, as I mentioned before, you can expect new tools, more resources, stronger messages from us about how you can create a more hopeful society and how we can do it together. In the meantime, until next week, I'm Rich Harwood. I'm founder and president of the Harwood Institute for Public Innovation. We're based here in Bethesda, Maryland. We're a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization. We started 30 years ago in a one-bedroom apartment in Washington, D.C., and it's spread now to all 50 states and 40 countries. And I think we know what it takes to create a more hopeful society, but I also know that we need to work together with you to do that. And so we look forward to working together with you. This is Harwood Half Hour. Good to see you and look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks for joining us.